it's not collecting your data.
Yeah, sure.
Is what he said.
Oh my gosh.
It's not collecting your data. It's not stealing your data. It's not listening to you. It's just there to help you.
I'm
it's
sure,
already
buddy.
smart enough, which
Oh
made me
my
giggle.
gosh.
But
that's what somebody who would want you to use AI so that they can collect more data about you would say.
yeah, but we still do like it.
Yes,
we still do.
It's responsible.
But
you have to be responsible when you lie.
Yes, it made me giggle for sure.
Oh my gosh.
You gotta let it down, 'cause you can work wherever now.
Ready?
Yeah. Welcome back, guys, to the Work Wherever podcast. My name is Sydney.
I'm Roy.
We've got Roy here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
It's been a while.
It
I'm
has.
glad to be back.
It's been too long. We need to have you on more, which
We will.
we had you on last week, 2 weeks ago.
It would have been, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did an interview with Spike.
That'll be out.
I think is a great interview.
That was out last week once this one goes out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And which Destiny is no longer on. She's back at college, but she did create an Excel sheet. Did she share it with you? That has all of the shows that we've ever done.
No.
And then the topics of them.
How did she find that out? Did you make her watch every single one,
I
Roy?
had her go back.
That sounds like torture.
Yeah,
actually.
I had her go back so that we could pull and go, oh, I feel like we talked about this before. Oh, yeah, it was on episode blah, 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 blah.
You know what I would use for that? I would say I would give the link to AI and I would say, watch this and give me a summary of what we talked about.
Can it do that?
I think.
It probably can.
I'm 100% sure it can do
listen
that.
to this episode and tell me what it does.
Well, it can do for meetings.
Right. So if we
can summarize like conversations
or uploaded a video of our podcast to, let's say, Microsoft Stream and said it was a meeting.
Yeah.
And then had Copilot give us the cliff notes on it.
Well, there has to be a way to do it because I use like for clips or reels of the podcast, I just put in the link.
Yeah.
Or I upload the video and it automatically creates reels and names them.
Yeah.
Right. So it knows what we're talking about. So I would like something's watching the entire video. So I don't see why it wouldn't be able to just summarize.
Always watching, Sid.
Right. I don't understand why it wouldn't be able to just summarize it.
I bet it is.
No, something definitely can. I'll AI that.
We'll have to figure that out. So Des, if you're listening,
we'll chat GPT
update the Excel sheet with whatever we're going to talk about today. Which, if you're new to this podcast, first welcome. There are 4 different versions of this podcast. We have the Roy's Rants, that's me by myself, typically with a tinfoil hat on. I'm talking about AI automation. Sometimes they get a little technical. Sometimes they're more I don't know. I don't like to call them conspiracy because they're not conspiracy. It's like
he saved those for off the
podcast. You know? Hypotheticals. We'll say.
Right. But like with high probability.
With high probability hypotheticals. So we have those. Allegedly. Then we have Internet Hotspot. That's what we have today.
Yep.
That's with Sydney. And we go to the internet, pull out some articles that we believe are relevant to the topic of discussion around automation, AI, or remote work. And then we have Homegrown with Haley. That's Haley and I. Haley's my wife. And we talk about, it's more of like a lifestyle podcast of what it is, how we work wherever, how we're able to homeschool, and how we're able to do different things. And then we have like a full length or an interview episode, and we've done a few of those.
Yeah, actually.
How about that? I told you they were coming. Nobody believed me. So we've done like 4, I think, interviews. So we did Katrina, we did Angela, we did Elise, right? We did
Elise, we did Tony.
That's right, we did Tony.
We did Alex
and Spike. So maybe we've done 8.
Yeah.
So I guess we've done basically 1 a month. In term, because we probably
just do a lot more of these, so it seems like so far.
We do so many of these. I mean, we do these sometimes twice a week. Usually once a week, but yeah. So yeah, we were doing 2 podcasts. We tried doing a lot. It was just too much.
And then Roy got behind and didn't film enough. It was my fault. I was like, "Hey, Roy."
Well, you stopped coming over, and we didn't want to hang out anymore.
I'd say, "Roy, do you want me to come over today?" And you say, "No, I'm too busy."
Yeah,
don't come over.
That is true.
So
we're gonna go back to the Monday format. That seemed to be working the best. That got the best views. That got the best. It seems like you guys really want to listen on Mondays, so that's what we're going back to. Monday podcasts. That's what does the best. Friday podcasts, not so much. Monday podcasts, a lot better. So here we are back on Mondays where we belong. And we're doing a hotspot episode again with Sydney here.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's so much a hotspot. It's not an article that I pulled, but it is about a little, I guess, webinar that I
Yeah.
did today. And a couple other people from Capital Presence did as well. But talking about AI, it's called The Future of Work, Leading Innovation in an Era of AI-Powered Productivity. And then this was done by Microsoft.
Right. So we are Microsoft partners. So Microsoft partners get access to certain webinars and certain topics of discussion.
Yeah.
This was one of them that they sent to their partners. We joined. And how many of them? There were like 3 people?
3 people, yeah, from
Yeah.
Capital Presence. But within probably the first 2 minutes, one of our other coworkers, he messaged me and was like, well, okay, this is pretty much like your podcast in a
Right.
in
They're
a
like
webinar.
this, right. Hey,
So
they're copying you guys. So which
yeah, they're copying us.
that's basically what I said. What I said to Austin, who was one of our team members who was on the podcast or on the webinar rather.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you know, this is basically what you guys are talking about in the podcast. And I said, well, it's good to know that we're on track.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft just did a whole webinar of what we've been talking about for a year.
Literally, specifically. And I thought it was funny too. I messaged you as well, like within this past week. And I know like on the podcast before you've talked a little bit about like technical debt.
Yeah.
And I messaged you. I said like, Roy, like within the first, and we've talked about it a lot within the company too, like talking about how we want to do a guidebook and things like that. And within the first 2 minutes, they mentioned, they called it digital debt. But
They call it digital debt.
Yeah. Same thing.
Same thing.
I was like, how does he know?
Oh, well,
It was weird though. It was strange.
It is weird, but it's like I can see these things. Like I know I'm
a visionary.
I have my pulse on the industry that I know what's coming.
Yeah.
You know? And we were way ahead of it when we started the business in like 16, 14, really, where SharePoint at that time it was SharePoint 2010. And you could build workflows. And I was like, this is like prime automation. We should be automating all this stuff within 365. And we need to be building an intranet. And I basically built a website, internal website with automation and new employee onboarding and all this stuff for the FDA. And then it became best practice. And I was like, I'm onto something. And then Microsoft Teams, I remember downloading Microsoft Teams in 2016, because that's when you can see when our organization got Teams. And It was like August.
I just updated it to a new version today.
Do you like it?
It looks the same.
Oh.
I downloaded the new Outlook the other day and I hate it.
Yeah.
Initially, I don't mind it now.
I've been using the new Outlook for a
I don't
while.
mind it anymore. But
I got the new Teams this week too, and I like it. I do. It's
I think it kind of gets to the point where you have to like update it, or else like it starts messing up.
Right. You can like switch it back for a little bit, but then soon it's just going to be Teams. It's not going to be new Teams.
Right.
But we started using Teams in August of 2016, and I remember downloading and be like, "What is this?" And then we were like, "Oh," and we started developing use cases around it, and then lo and behold, that becomes best practice set out by Microsoft.
It's crazy.
We've been ahead of these things.
Yeah, it's crazy when it's utilized correctly as well. Because we had like SharePoint at my old job, and it was not like there was no rhyme or reason. It was so confusing.
Right.
But then just now looking at it, I'm like, how did we mess up that badly?
Right.
How is it that confusing?
Well, when Microsoft does a really good job of giving people tools and then not explaining what they do or why they're there, and then leaving it up to the industry, people like us to write the governance rules for them. And, you know, I've never been named a Microsoft MVP, but I believe I'm way far ahead of the curve than any of the other MVPs out there. I mean, I follow a ton of MVPs on Twitter, and we've had MVPs on this show.
He follows so much, and then he sends it all to me.
And they are, most of them, I won't say all of them, but most of the MVPs are reactionary, and then they just push what Microsoft wants you to push.
Yeah.
I am not that way. I have been very proactive in my approach, saying this is going to be the way. And this podcast is an episode or a evident of that.
Yeah.
That we've been way ahead of the curve. So I was very happy when Austin messaged me, and he was like, and then you messaged me. It is. Which I'm writing. I'm writing a book. Did I tell you I'm writing a book?
Yeah. In our call, you did say that. You said you were going to do like 7 pages a day. Oh, really?
I'm 7 chapters. Yeah. So and it's all about like this, like automation, how to implement automation, where it's going, how to write governance around it. So I've been 7 chapters in. I've never been 7 chapters into a book before. I've decided that I was writing a book before. I get like 2 chapters in. I'm like, I don't want to write about this. But I'm
That's
7 chapters
exciting.
in. I have the next 5 to 6 chapters already outlined. So it'll be like 13, 14
You have the
chapters.
perfect platform to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we'll see. Well, maybe I'll
promo.
give a few away. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, let's get into this webinar.
Yeah. So the future of work, again, leading innovation in the era of AI-powered productivity. This mainly had to do with Copilot.
Yeah. Which we talked about Copilot.
They are pushing it pretty hard recently in Microsoft. So this is just from like the email they sent beforehand, saying surveys show that 70% of employees are eager to have AI reduce their workload.
Mm-hmm.
If your workload is filled with manual administrative tasks like data entry and time tracking, you may or may not have time to develop innovative breakthroughs. So with AI powering your team, you'll see an increase in productivity, which is exactly what we say all the time.
Yeah.
Help make your job easier. Utilizing AI, don't get rid of people.
That's right. That's the whole point here, is people are afraid of AI because they're afraid of Terminator scenarios, or they're afraid that's going to take their job, and they're afraid of, and if you've listened to the Spike interview, Spike lays out a very interesting scenario. Go listen to that interview, because Spike and I break down AI and future of AI and what it could mean for the human race, and we get into like space travel, and it was a fun episode. It was like basically like a Roy's rant episode with another person who
you guys could be best friends.
Right. I love Spike. He's been on the podcast before, which he said after the episode, he was like, we got to do this again.
Oh, good.
So I love Spike. Great.
Good.
guy.
I'm excited to edit it.
And yeah, so go listen to that. But outside of the whole like 100 years from now, 200 years from now, what is AI and what does it do to humans? Today, you need to be utilizing AI to increase your efficiency, not to replace humans. It needs to be a human-centric design approach. So the humans are still making the decisions, and the artificial intelligence is the one giving them information, and it should be checked, right?
Yep. Yes.
We talked a lot about how artificial intelligence is not very smart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we were trying to verify. My husband and I were trying to do like
is that fun to say?
It's like weird to get used to.
Yeah.
It's fine to say, but
right.
It's strange like changing.
You have to, like,
I still have to think about it. Yeah. But we were doing like the captcha where you like have to click the pictures, like click all the ones with the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Probably did it for like 30 minutes last night.
And you're teaching.
He kept saying
AI.
like you're incorrect. I'm like, no, I don't think I am.
You're teaching an AI what to think.
I know. That's all I thought about the whole time.
Those captcha is like, show me pictures of a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, not only are you proving that you're human, but you're teaching an algorithm what a bicycle is at the same time.
And it was for Steam, which is like an AI.
Yeah.
They're AI games anyway, so I just thought it was funny. But yeah, so they opened this webinar out with a couple of statistics. And this is what I messaged you about, was digital debt is costing us innovation.
Yeah.
So here they said 64% of employees don't have enough time or energy to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very much so.
57% of employees' time is spent communicating.
Right.
And 43% of employees' time is spent creating.
43. So that's a minority of their time.
Mm-hmm.
So 57 communicating, 43. Did I get those numbers right?
Yep.
57 communicating, 43 creating.
But a majority of people are saying that they do not have enough time to do their job because they spend most of their time having to communicate it.
Right. If you're spending the majority of your time communicating, either trying to find out information, clarify information, then how can you really be totally productive?
Exactly. So that's where AI comes in. And then they have a couple more statistics here that said what employees want from AI. Mm-hmm. So the main ones being 86% finding info and answers, which I definitely use a lot.
That's the ChatGPT model, right?
Yeah. 80% summarizing meetings and action items. So definitely.
Which that's what we talked about right before we.
Yep.
Did we?
In the intro.
Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah. Okay, so summarizing not just meetings, but summarizing, anything. It can watch something, can summarize a podcast. It can, which could be helpful too when we You're trying
Reviewing-
to figure out like what podcasts are useful to each
reviewing
person.
meeting notes, reviewing emails. That's what I really love about AI. So there's like one AI that I use pretty regularly, and it's like, you haven't responded to this email, which I get a ton of emails. I don't check my email. I really don't. Like, I check it like a couple times a day.
Right.
And then I'll just bulk go through it, because most of if I were to check every single email that comes in, most of it's spam, right?
Yeah.
So I keep my Outlook minimized, and I'm like, okay, in the morning I'll check it, like noon I'll check it, and then typically at the end of the day I'll check it, and then I'm just basically like delete. Right?
Yeah, it's great at that. But they mentioned later in this podcast, in this webinar as well, how they were using it to kind of summarize like which team members talked the most, who used the most minutes,
Oh.
and what subjects they spent the most time on.
That's pretty cool.
To kind of get a better gauge of that, which
That's
I thought
through
was
Copilot?
interesting.
Nice.
Which I thought was interesting as well. 79% analytical work. Analytical work.
Which that's
If
what
you
we've
want
been
it to do,
pumping
like,
this whole
actual-
time.
So our other coworker Clay did something really cool yesterday. We were on a meeting and he was trying to figure out something with Power BI. And he had some sort of, it wasn't ChatGPT, but it was some sort of AI thing like that. And he put like the formula in, and it
Fixed it.
It didn't fix it. It told him what it was saying, like in human words.
Oh.
So it was saying like, this is saying if so and so, if value is equal to 15 days before this happens, and this happens. Which is super cool.
Yeah. So that's Copilot. So Copilot runs in the Power Platform. So Power BI is part of the Power Platform, and you can take, that's called Power Effects is what that language is.
Yeah.
And if you take the Power Effects and you put it into Copilot and you tell it like, what the hell am I doing? That's what that is.
Because we were trying to figure, like, find an error, or because something wasn't happening correctly, and he's like, "Well, this is what it's saying."
Yeah.
So
and then you take that information as a developer and you say, "Oh, thank you, Copilot," and then you can fix it and amend it and manipulate it to do what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
Saving you tons of technical debt.
Oh, tons. And my husband, again, like when ChatGPT first came out, and I had been talking about it on the podcast for weeks, and he like just discovered it, and I'm like, okay, well, clearly you don't watch the podcast.
Tell me about what you've learned.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you can put all these formulas in. So he works for like an exterior company, but he does a lot of like ordering and things like that, and like with measurements and everything like that. But he was like putting like full formulas in, and it was like popping out exactly like how many square feet of so and so he would need, and blah 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 blah. So yeah, if you're doing something like that, it could be super useful.
The more that you give it, the more that you'll receive.
Exactly.
So like if you tell it, so like that's
and it's
why
math, right? I feel like
it is.
It's a computer. So especially at that, it would be good at.
Math especially will be good because there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in terms of creativity. When you get into like the creativity, or you're like write me a template, or you're doing like, you got to really hardcore dive and check that kind of stuff, because it'll give you information that's just totally wrong. Like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but like with the Copilot too, like it's starting to loop in a lot of that stuff, so you'll see it more in like
create this for me.
Or more in like PowerPoint, like make this PowerPoint like branded for me, or like do this, you know what I mean?
Which it already did that before.
It already did, but it just kind of does it a little better now.
Definitely.
But it's also being looped into like SharePoint as well. So
what's it going to do in SharePoint?
I think just
finding
help.
documents?
I think no, kind of design wise, same thing. It kind of will help like streamline that.
Oh, that's cool.
So 73% of people did say creative work that it once helped with, which is a lot.
For ideas, I feel like idea generation of creatives, right?
Maybe, or just help with creative work in general.
I feel like you got to be careful with creative work.
For sure.
Yeah.
But if you're doing a PowerPoint internally for your company or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't
so
see why not.
there are things that the internet can be very difficult and very damaging with, right? So like we do an RSS feed, or we did. We don't do it anymore. But we had an RSS feed that would push blogs to our site of places that we thought were like, hey, we think this would be valuable information. And it would bring in images. Well, one of the images that we brought in,
which is deleted, by the way.
We did delete it. But we got a couple of emails about it. So you got to be careful what the AI, you can get into like plagiarism, you can get into like stealing of ideas or stealing of media content and stuff like that, which we had no intention of taking any of those images, right? That was not our. We don't even push people to our blog. In fact, I don't even think
Right.
we
Like
have
you
our
can't
blog.
even
You
search
can't even
it
find our
unless it's
blog.
linked in something. So I don't know
Yeah,
how they must have reversed
so
image
yeah, we're
search.
dealing with that. That's fun, but it's like you got to be
Just
careful with that stuff. And that's just a simple RSS feed. Asking ChatGPT or an AI to like create me something or give me an idea for something
Yeah. When it comes to like creating images, though, I mean,
could, but it could blend
you
multiple
could.
images
You could
together.
say, I don't know, maybe you could give it a article and say, read this article and create a picture,
Oh, that's pretty
create a a banner based on what it's saying. Maybe.
I like that OpenAI and ChatGPT has topics where you can like put in, like you can save your topics, right? So you can like talk about it with multiple different things,
Mhm.
and then it'll remember all the variables that you talked about within that
Yes.
topic of conversation. So then you could give it a bunch of things. You could be like, we have this, we have that, we do that. Give me give me information about this, or help me with this. Let me brainstorm that. And then after you've been talking to it for a series of time, weeks, then you can ask it questions about the entire conversation that you've been having, and then it'll be more, precise. It's never going to be exact, but it'll give you a little bit closer to what you're actually looking for. Yeah, you got to be careful whether they're creative though, because I would just take it as like inspiration.
Oh yeah, it's good to give ideas. Like Dustin and I have used it definitely to give like, what how-to video should I do on this? Like, or
and it'll be like, here's like 10 ones you could do, and then you're like,
exactly.
oh,
Well,
this
I've already
one,
done this, but
this one we could use that one to. Okay, cool. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. What else? And then admin tasks and planning their day, which we've definitely have talked about as well too. But then it did go into employees need AI aptitude, right? So it said 82% of leaders say employees will need new skills to prepare for AI.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what we talk about all the time too, you can't just drop AI
Yeah.
into your organization without being ready for it, right?
Yes.
In the next slide, I think they call it like foundational, what do they call it? Foundational productivity.
Yeah.
So basically mentioning like, okay, you have to have your processes in place.
Governance, standardization,
collaboration, management. You have to have all of that in place before you're able to implement AI.
That's the chapter that I just wrote for that book is all about that. Governance, standardization is to say,
that's a huge part of what our company does as well.
Yeah, right.
It's literally that.
Helping you
efficient.
Grab your processes and understand your processes so that you can standardize and build governance. And so we help you do that. Absolutely. And we can fly out to your place of business and spend the whole day with you if you really want us to. We have packages for that. Sydney and I will show up literally on your doorstep. And so but that's what we do. And in that chapter I was writing, and I said, you have these for a reason. Don't let a robot break your processes. If you wouldn't let your employee break it, why would you let a robot? Because people are like, oh, we want AI. Okay, well, I'm going to go around our process. Or I'm going to go around our governance to ask ChatGPT or Copilot or the Google or Bing bot or whatever to go around a process. That's how things break. That's how you end up with holes. That's how you end up with misinformation. And it's not a good thing.
How you do it wrong. Yeah. And it goes further to break that down, right? So part of that AI aptitude, right? So they said 30%, like you need analytical judgment.
Yes.
Which is the person, like, yes, you can use it, but you have to check it, right? You need flexibility, emotional intelligence, creative evaluation.
Right. From a human perspective.
Exactly. Intellectual curiosity, bias detection and handling, and AI delegation, so prompts. So again, you can use all these things, but you still have to have a human
that's going
doing
to be
all of these things for you.
Right.
And you need to train your employees on.
And we talked about this before, where we were saying, are there going to be certain positions or certain career paths that become insignificant because of artificial intelligence? Yes, but it'll also prop up new positions that we hadn't even thought of or weren't even like expecting, like a prompter. Like there will be people who it's their whole job is to communicate with ChatGPT, where they have this string of information. They have been communicating with the information for so long. They have all of their topics and they have all of the back and forth and all the variables in one conversation piece, and that person's the prompter. So it's like, hey, Sydney, ask ChatGPT this, or this is the information that I'm trying to get out of AI. Can you help me? And that person's job is to communicate with the AI in such a way that we can grab information, relay it back on.
Right.
That's going to be that's like data. I mean, that might not be the most high level position in your organization, but it'll be a position,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I don't know the statistic, but they did say at some point, I didn't write it down in here, about like the number of increases in jobs, like at least on LinkedIn, that have AI like in the name.
It's definitely going to be something to watch here going forward.
Oh yeah.
Is the shift in blue collar jobs in the tech industry, to say that, because right now there aren't many blue collar jobs in tech. It's like you're a developer, you're an architect, you're an engineer. Data entry is like the entry level to tech job. But I'm telling you, we're going to start to see an influx of like blue collar, like artificial intelligence assistant prompt or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's what I was getting at as well.
Yeah, we're going to see it. And we'll have a whole new level of blue collar. And I think it's a good thing. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't regulate AI and we don't keep a check on it. Does it talk about that?
Yeah, so it was kind of broken up into two sections, right? Okay. So the creative part, like possibilities, was the first part. And the second speaker they had, I don't know his name. Gladstone Grant is his name.
Is it?
Yeah.
That sounds fake.
But I know. But Microsoft's responsible AI principles.
Okay.
Was the next portion.
We should do an entire podcast on that. So let's not break into that. Okay. Let's do an entire podcast on Microsoft's responsible AI principles, because I don't want to glaze over that. We should do a whole podcast on that.
They definitely did hit on it. And at one point there was two of them talking together, and he said like, hey, like if there's one thing you could tell people like about AI, like it's not collecting your data.
Yeah, sure.
Is what he said.
Oh my gosh.
It's not collecting your data. It's not stealing your data. It's not listening to you. It's just there to help you. It's already smart enough, which made me giggle. But
that's what somebody who would want you to use AI so that they can collect more data about you would say.
Yeah, but we still do like it.
Yes,
still do.
It's responsible.
But
you have to be responsible when you lie.
Yes, it made me giggle for sure.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. We are going to do a separate episode on what is it?
AI principles, responsible AI principles.
That's what we're going to do next. So, guys, thanks for hanging out. And until next time, you got anything else said?
No, I'm good.
All right, see you.
Yeah.
Hey there! Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for all the latest videos from Capital Presence.